Hello, everybody. Welcome into the Triple Threat Show. I am your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Today is a beautiful Wednesday, November 19th. It's a cold day up in Boston, isn't it? Mehrob here, our representative, our weatherman, our friend and co-host here to give us a little bit about what's going on in Boston. I did not fix that. I apologize. There's two me's on the screen. We're going to fix that in a second. And also, Shane Brisland is not in. It is Mehrob Fatemi. How are you doing today, Mehrob?
Doing pretty good, my friend. It's been, like you said, a very cold day so far. I had to walk outside about 2 hours ago to 20-degree weather and frost all over my windshield. I was not a happy camper. I had to bring out the winter jacket, but we are nice and cozied up inside and ready to go for another beautiful show.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Are we've got a big show today. We really do. This is a kind of amalgamation of two shows, if you can believe it. We have the continuation of our show from yesterday that got cut short a little bit. That's my fault. I had to run to work. But that means we've got an action-packed, jam-packed show. Mehrob officially on the screen. You can see his beautiful face now. Welcome in officially. But we're going to get this kicked off because it was a huge day in sports yesterday. The college football playoffs rankings were released, and there are a lot of things that you can say about this ranking. There are plenty of things you can say that are good about this ranking, right? I think they got the top 5 correct. Texas Tech at 5 is huge. I really like the fact that they're respecting the Big 12. They have 3 Big 12 teams in the top 12 of the ranking. BYU and Utah State being the first 2 teams out ahead of a couple of SEC and Big 10 schools and Miami in the ACC. I respect that a lot. But my first major issue with this one is the fact that Notre Dame is ahead of Alabama. There's been so much controversy, Mehrob, about what's going on with Notre Dame in their ranking. They lost to Miami. Why isn't Miami above them? Alabama has lost to Florida State. They've beaten Georgia, though. They've beaten Vanderbilt. Both of those teams ranked in the top 15. They also now just lost to Oklahoma, who ranked at number 8 in this ranking. There are things you can say. I understand. I do understand putting Alabama below Notre Dame, but I think Alabama should be above them. You can make the argument, again, Notre Dame always has been this controversial figure at the top 10 this season because they lost to Miami, right? And their big argument, Miami won, they should be ahead of them. I hate that argument, Mehrob. I hate it so much. I hate it so much because let's play this game. Okay? We'll do teams that have only lost once or twice. Just to be fair, we're not going to throw like a 4-loss team in there, but let's play this game. Notre Dame loses to Miami. Okay, got to put Miami ahead of them. Miami loses to SMU. Okay, got to put SMU ahead of them. SMU loses to Baylor. Okay, got to put Baylor ahead of them, right? You can do this. That's not how it works. This isn't the completion, what's it called? There's like a wheel of destiny or whatever when you play sports. There's like a whole thing the internet's claimed where one team beat this team and that team beat that team and you go in the full circle, like an Ouroboros or something like that, right? This is not that. This is a ranking based on how you're playing, based on your resume this season. The resume for Notre Dame is just flat out better than Miami, and I'm tired of people saying that Miami should be ahead of them because we can play that game, and that's just not how it works in college football nowadays, Mehrob.
Yes, it is. That is very true. And honestly, the only other thing I have to say, and I think, honestly, I want you to touch on one thing, though, Jeremy. How in God's green earth is Tulane in the college football playoff
Oh, don't you
bracket
worry.
right
We're
now?
getting there. I was just starting with the top 10. I'm repping my
Oh,
squad
okay.
right here. But
Big baby steps.
baby
How do you
steps.
want?
We're working our way up. I just want the top 10, I think, is pretty solid outside of that. They got the right 10 teams, and I don't mind that. The rest of the rankings, I don't have too much of an issue with, except, Mehrob, like you said, Tulane. Tulane is in the college football playoffs. And I'll be nice for a second. Tulane, a good football team, a very good football team even. I would say they're the third best group of 5 school overall. I would put them below James Madison, and I would put them below North Texas based on their resume. Look, I understand that they've beaten 2 Power 4 schools, but again, let's play this game. What are the 2 Power 4 schools that they've beaten? They've beaten Duke, who's lost 4 games. 4 games Duke has lost. Sorry, 5 games. I apologize. They lost to Virginia. They've lost 5 games. They're barely bowl eligible. Anyway, Duke. And they lost to Northwestern. They lost to Northwestern. Who cares if you beat Northwestern? Who cares if you beat Northwestern? It's Northwestern. You should beat Northwestern. James Franklin got fired because he lost to Northwestern. That's not a quality win. They lost to Ole Miss. It was a close game. Give them their props. They're playing a tough schedule, but they also lost by 22 points. 22 points to UTSA, the Roadrunners of University Texas San Antonio. Okay, I understand. Strength of schedule is important. I do understand that. JMU should have had that representative, should be that representative for the group of 5. Their one loss is to a Power 5 school, and if that's what you're going to talk about, Tulane lost to Ole Miss, JMU lost to Louisville, who beat Miami, lost to Virginia. These are both really quality schools, right? They did lose to Clemson there. Whatever, that's a weird one, and we understand the way that resume is starting to look. But Louisville's still a very good team, a team that JMU probably would have beaten if they weren't running 2 quarterbacks at the time, which is something that the committee probably should take into consideration, but they're not going to do that. JMU's defense is among the best in the entire nation. You have to take a look at everything. I understand strength of schedule is important, but the games that Tulane lost were not strength of schedule games. You could make an argument if Tulane had lost to Duke, if Tulane had lost to Ole Miss, and those were their 2 losses. They're 8-2 with 2 power conference losses. They lost to UTSA by 22 points. Get them out of my ranking. They don't deserve to be here. JMU should be the group of 5 representative. I was so confident. I went on to live radio here yesterday, and I said 100% that JMU would be the G5 representative, and now I owe people sandwiches. I look stupid. JMU snubbed. That's the biggest snub of the college football rankings, but overall, I think they did a pretty good job, right? I don't love the bottom row, 20 to 25, but my biggest issue is that G5 spot, and that's going to be heavily contested. We'll see what happens in the American Championship, but it's not looking good. I thought JMU had the inside track after a USF loss, but they are not respecting the Sun Belt. They talked about that strength of schedule, and that could be really interesting for the teams up top. It seems like they're only doing that for the group of 5 when, you want to talk about strength of schedule. Why aren't we just putting all the SEC teams in? Obviously, I don't want that. That's bad. But by strength of schedule, I mean, even a 3-loss Texas has a harder schedule than Texas Tech does. What are we doing? That's a dumb argument. Again, you can always poke holes in these things because it's all subjective. But those are my 2 big issues. Alabama below Notre Dame, and the fact that JMU is not the G5 representative. We still got a couple more weeks for them to fix all of this, which they can. They can fix it next Tuesday, but they better not have this be the ranking for the final playoffs because Tulane should not be the representative. Outside of that,
no doubt.
That's all I got for this one. There's so much going on. But Mehrob, did you have any other issues with the college football playoff ranking?
My only personal argument that I have against this ranking isn't even that big of a deal. I think Texas A&M should be the number 1 seed over the Ohio States and Indianas of the world, only because their strength of schedule, like you've said. And yeah, it's a little bit subjective, like you've said, but I do think it matters. I think the fact that they're the creme de la creme of the hardest conference but the strongest conference by far, I think it has to matter for something. I don't think Ohio State is as good as people say. Yeah, they're the defending champs, so I get their argument. But Indiana shouldn't be number 2 over A&M, in my opinion. I have A&M as the number 1 seed in my books. That was my only take. against the list. But outside of that and the Tulane take, like you said, I just wanted to give you the floor for that because I know you were pretty heated about that talking before the show.
Oh yeah,
So I wanted to give
I
you
was
the floor
real
for that.
heated. I'm ready to
I
fight
wanted
the
to give you the
committee.
floor for
I'm
that.
ready to fight him.
So
Bring him to me. I'll take him down.
that's all I got. But there's a lot of games left to play. We'll see how this all pans out before the playoffs start here.
Couple games. JMU will beat Washington State by 50, and then we'll get our spot back like we need. But let's get into the NFL. We talked a lot of college football yesterday. Let's get into the NFL. As we do every single Wednesday, Mehrob, we are going to do some NFL tiers. 32 teams enter. Only 10 of them deserve to be at the top of the NFL. We'll go through our top 10 here. A couple honorable mentions here for the NFL tiers. Let's start off with the with the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jaguars are sitting at 14. I've got a couple honorable mentions here. The Jaguars just blew out the Chargers. The Chargers were a fringe top 10 team. They were in our honorable mentions last week. The Jaguars win 35-6. That Jacksonville defense, Mehrob, no joke. No joke, that Jacksonville defense. They're going to be a tough out. They're currently holding on to that 7th seed in the AFC. They have the tiebreaker over the Chiefs, which is going to be huge. They're ahead of the Texans right now, although they don't have the tiebreaker over them, so that's something to watch. The Jaguars, shout out to them. They're at number 14. The 49ers also in the honorable mentions. They get Brock Purdy back, and they look like a machine again. They're a really good team. That NFC West division is maybe the best in football. You have the Rams, the Seahawks, the Niners, and, I mean, you can even throw in, wow, I'm blanking on that fourth team right now.
Cardinals.
The
Take
Cardinals.
the maybe
The
out
Cardinals.
there.
Yeah, you
Take
can
the
kind of
maybe
throw
out.
you can't really throw the Cardinals in, but I like that offense. Jacoby Brissett just set an NFL record, 47 completions. Michael Wilson went for almost 150 yards on 15 catches. He just had a huge game. Shout out to the Cardinals. They're a fun team to watch, but we don't know anything about them. But the 49ers, they're 13. They're in that honorable mention spot. The Broncos also here. I don't like Bo Nix. I feel like that's been very clear since day one. I don't like Bo Nix. Bo Nix is not a great quarterback. But they're winning games. So shout out to the Broncos. You're an honorable mention. That defense is elite. And my last honorable mention, it's the Green Bay Packers. They just have not played great football. They haven't been consistent. We were talking about it pre-show. Jordan Love could be a top 10 quarterback maybe. He's just too inconsistent. He loves to bomb the ball downfield. The rushing game just hasn't been there, and I know there's an injury now to Josh Jacobs, which concerns me even more. They were able to beat the Giants. That defense hasn't been as good as I thought it was going to be. They did drop like 4 interceptions that they should have got from Jameis Winston, but that's just how it goes sometimes. They still escape with a win, and the Packers fringe top 10.
So, Jeremy, okay.
This is going to be good.
Okay. The Jaguars and the Niners, I get. Even the Packers, I can understand because the Packers they had that abysmal game against the Eagles where they got absolutely shut down. And then that game against the Panthers where they also looked horrible. Jordan Love, like you said, is kind of picking and choosing where he wants to perform. And especially with that loss to Josh Jacobs is a big time warning. But I do think they can piece it together. I don't mind them being outside of the top 10. Jeremy, how in God's green earth do you have a 9-2 team outside of the top 10? Though?
Because they're not good at football.
because they came back against your Giants in the fourth quarter and put up 30 in the fourth quarter against you guys.
That's not why. That's not why. It's because they can only play fourth quarters. Let's take a look at their wins thus far, okay?
Agreed.
They've beaten the Titans. Huge win for the Broncos. They beat the Titans. Congratulations. They lost to the Colts and the Chargers. Oh, those are 2 pretty solid teams. They beat the Bengals. Okay, I guess. That was not Joe Burrow, by the way. That was Jake Browning and the Bengals. So, again, okay, I guess. They did beat the Eagles. Props to them for beating the Eagles. Huge comeback effort. But again, the Eagles also a little bit broken offensively. Then they beat the Jets. Congratulations,
Yep.
Broncos. You beat the Jets. They beat the Giants. Oh, my God. Congratulations. You beat the Giants. You beat the Cowboys. Wow. Look at this resume they're building, Mehrob. Look at this amazing resume they're building. The Texans. Okay. I guess that's an okay win. The Raiders. Wow. Wow, what a win. The Raiders. And then they beat the Chiefs. So there's maybe one good win. I'll give them two half wins. Two good half wins. Which adds up to one good win out of 9.
I mean,
Like, they're winning games, and it's impressive to win games in the NFL. I understand that. But when you look at the way they're playing football, you look at the way they're winning games, it is not impressive at all. And they're still a good team. They're going to make the playoffs. They're probably going to win their division. They're just not good. They're just simply not good.
I just think a 9-2 team. I mean, they did beat the Eagles, they beat the Texans, they beat the Chiefs, they beat the Cowboys. I think that's 3.5 wins, I'd say, because the
Yeah.
Cowboys are kind of a half win. I'd agree. But that's the Eagles, the Texans, and the Chiefs have to mean something.
The Eagles mean
Colts-
something. The Texans are half a win, and the Chiefs will give them a full win for that. So that's 2.5. That's 2.5 good games.
Okay.
But that's
But the-
still 6.5.
The
Just-
Broncos defense has to mean something, though, in this.
They gave up 32 points to the Giants. This is not like it's a good defense. Don't get me wrong. It's a really good defense. This defense is not top 10 worthy for teams as a whole. It's a top 10 defense. It's the second best defense in the NFL. Second best in all of the NFL. Only behind the Eagles. The Eagles defense is still the best. But this is not a top 10 team in the NFL. I don't think they'd beat the Packers. I don't even think they'd beat the Niners. And I still have them ahead of the Niners. I don't think they'd beat the Jags. I have them ahead of the Jags. But that's the respect for that 9-win record. You have to take a little bit of it, but you also, again, like we were talking about in college football, you got to take a little bit of who they beat. I know you just play who's ahead of you, but it's...
Yeah.
I'm
We're
not
not gonna
impressed by the way they're winning these games.
That's fair. We're not going to give them any credit here in the next 2 weeks either because they have to go on the road to Washington and on the road to Oakland or to Vegas.
Right.
2 gimme wins.
Right.
But after that, they get the Packers, the Jaguars, the Chiefs on the road, and then the Chargers.
And that's going to be the real test.
Yeah, if they can go 2 or 3 out, if they can go 3-1 on that stretch, I think we'll learn a lot. I think if they go 3-1 on that stretch, Jeremy, would you tell me right now you would put them in the top 5?
I was thinking about that. It's going to take a lot to get top 5, honestly, because there's a lot of really good teams.
NFC, the NFC. Yeah.
Yeah. But definitely, they would definitely move up into the top 10. Probably, if they go 3-1 in that stretch, they could probably get into the top 5. I just don't know how the rest of it's going to go because Colts, Patriots, Eagles, Rams, Lions, Bills, Ravens, Bucks, Seahawks. There's a lot of really good teams, right? I just don't I don't know. I don't know if they're really a top 10 team right now, but they are fringe. They're fringe for sure. You have to respect the record. You're right about that, but I don't respect the team.
That's fair. Let's move into the top 10 and let's see what else we got crack-a-lacking here.
Let's get to the top 10 here. The Kansas City Chiefs kick it off. I've adjusted a little bit. Egg on my face, was wrong. I was wrong. The Chiefs were not a top 3 team in the NFL, and they probably never should have been that high. Top 10, though, maybe. Also, you can make an argument that they should be lower here. I don't know what's wrong with this Chiefs team because all the expected numbers, all of the analytical numbers are saying this is the 3rd best Chiefs offense in all of Patrick Mahomes' career. But the numbers just aren't backing it up. They're 5-5 right now. They're on the inside track to miss the playoffs. We went over that a little bit, or I went over that a little bit yesterday. But the Chiefs still at number 10 for me. They're going to continue to drop, especially if they lose to the Texans this week. They're going to have a real rude awakening in my power rankings right now. Number 9, the Seattle Seahawks. I've been high, I've been low on this team. This is a good Seahawks team. Don't get me wrong. But we saw bad Sam Darnold last week. 4 interceptions against the Rams. This is what happens when he faces a really good pass rush. And it's not like we haven't seen him play really good pass rushes in the past, right? This season, he's done a pretty good job, and he's still playing really good football, but when he played the 49ers week 1, he didn't play his best game of football, right? When he went up against the Texans, that was impressive. That's a good Texans defensive line, and they went and played really good football against that one. But then the Rams just continued to give him troubles after troubles after troubles. I don't know what Sam Darnold we're going to get, but if we get the Sam Darnold we saw last week, this is not a Seahawks team that's going to be very good. They were at number 2 last week, so this is a bit of a harsh fall for them. But they're still in the top 10 at number 9, and maybe that's unfair. Maybe they should be a little bit higher.
No, that's not unfair. I mean, when you have your quarterback go out and throw 4 picks in a game, it's not unfair. I will say, I think the defense is the strong part of this team.
For
It will
sure.
stay that way until they reach the playoffs. It's going to keep being, that's what it's going to be. What I will say is, I think this is going to be a week-to-week thing, and we're going to have to see how this team performs. They beat up on the bad teams, and they lose to the good teams. I have no problem saying that, and that's why they are where they are.
Yeah.
But this offense is still a work in progress. I think the addition of Rashid Shaheed is still getting intricated into the into the offense. They were missing the one thing I will say actually, Kenneth Walker had a great game in that game. He had 67 yards in a touchdown. Not a whole lot to sneeze at, but I mean, 67 yards rushing, 40 yards receiving, 100 yards overall. I mean, he had a great game for a guy that has been talked about as a bust so far this year and not part of the offense. I think this offense is still growing around one another, and we're going to have to give them some time to continue to do that. Did they go up against the best team in football? Maybe, and we'll see how this power rankings ends up going. I think so, but this is a team that is going to continue to grow around one another, and they only lost by a field goal. With a quarterback that threw 4 picks in a game, when you lose by a field goal, a game-winning field goal, I mean, there's not a whole lot to say with that.
Yeah, it's very impressive. It is. That defensive performance is very good. And if they would learn to give Kenny Walker the rock more, I think this offense could be even better than it is. But I'm not going to talk because Clint Kubiak's put a really good offense together around Sam Darnold and JSN. Number 8, I've got Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers lose to the Bills. That defense is a little concerning to me, but the offense can keep up despite not having Bucky Irving. When he comes back, potentially this week, that's going to be a huge bonus for them. No Chris Godwin, no Mike Evans. Ibuka's stepping up huge. You have Tez Johnson who's stepping up huge. You have a lot of guys that are stepping up big for this Bucs offense, and that's really impressive to see. I just need to see more out of that defense. The Ravens continue to climb, this time all the way up to number 7. A few weeks ago, they were down near number 20, but now that they've reeled off a couple wins in a row, they look to be in charge of the AFC North. And I think they're a real Super Bowl threat again, the way that Lamar is playing and the way that that defense especially is playing the Ravens all the way back up into the top 10 at number 7.
I like it. I like it a lot. I mean, those two teams, the Buccaneers, like you said, with Bucky, when they get Bucky Irving back, will be a powerhouse. And then the Ravens on a 4-game win streak started 1-5, now 5-5, just 1 game back on the Steelers for the AFC North crown. I like it. Let's move into the top 6 here.
Top 6, the Buffalo Bills, just outside of the top 5. They've had a couple of tough losses, but they've also had a couple of big wins. This week included in that big win category. This is actually the second week in a row we've had a fall from 2 to 9, so maybe that's a pattern. But the Bills up a couple spots here to number 6. Josh Allen finally played like an MVP. 6 total touchdowns for the reigning NFL MVP. 3 on the ground, 3 through the air in a huge win over the Bucs, a statement win, and one that they needed after getting blown out against the Dolphins last week. Number 5, we enter into the pinnacle of football. The top 5 teams, and here are the Indianapolis Colts. Their second time being in the top 5 this season, and maybe I've been kind of low on them, but Indiana Jones, Jonathan Taylor, they were on a bye week last week, but they are gearing up for the playoffs. Having a late bye with a good start is a dangerous combination.
Absolutely. The Colts are a dangerous team here in the NFL. Any team that squares off against them in the AFC is gonna need to have a good run defense, or at least practice to try and stop the run, because Jonathan Taylor is gonna just run the ball over. Is just gonna run over you if you're not prepping for him. He's outside of the quarterbacks. He is the next candidate for NFL MVP. It's flat out what it is, and in my opinion, he's the number 3 overall in that list in terms of who can get that award. Outside of them, the Buffalo Bills put up 40 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Did Josh Allen show some of his 2023 self, some of his errant throws? Yeah, but at the same time, even though he threw 2 picks, he did also put up like 4 or 5 touchdowns. Had 2 rushing touchdowns. Was an absolute monster in the game. Was the reason why the Bills ended up winning that game against the Buccaneers. I like it. Top 6, top 5. And then we climb into the top 4 here.
Yeah, let's take a look at that top 4. The New England Patriots are here. You can make a lot of the same arguments if you don't like the Patriots that we just made for the Broncos. They haven't played a lot of people, and that's not going to change. But here's what I'll say. Drake May is a lot better at quarterback than Bo Nix is, and if you drop Drake May onto the Broncos right now, the Broncos might be undefeated. So that's the reason that the Patriots are so high and the Broncos not quite in the top 10. The Patriots here at number 4, they gotta win. They played the Jets, whatever. They're just going to kind of stay pat where they are as long as they keep on winning games. Into the top 3, a tough loss last week for the Lions against the Eagles. They still find a way to move up because I might have screwed up the rankings a little bit last week by putting the Chiefs so high. The Lions, I'm a little concerned about Jared Goff. I'm always a little concerned about Jared Goff. He falls into that same tier of quarterbacks as Bo Nix, as Brock Purdy, as a lot of these Mac Jones types, these system quarterbacks. If you have a good system, you have a good offensive line, you can get it done. But you need that system, you need that offensive line, and you need the weapons. The Lions have all 3, but when he gets hurried up, when he gets pressured, it's not looking great. Throw Sam Darnold into that category as well. That Seattle offensive line has been a lot better than I expected it to be this season. Number 2 for me, the Philadelphia Eagles. The Philadelphia Eagles defense has shut down now 2 potential NFC North favorites in a row, both on prime time. The Lions and the Packers both got absolutely locked out on offense. The addition of Jalen Phillips has been everything for this Eagles team. That defense was already really good beforehand, but now Jalen Phillips, healthy for the first time in years, is back to that top 5 edge rusher form that people were trying to throw him in just a couple of seasons ago. And my number 1 team, it's the same number 1 team 3 weeks reigning, it's the Los Angeles Rams. Welcome back to the top. Matthew Stafford, the top of my MVP ladder, and the Rams continue to win and win good games. I know they probably should have won that game by more against the Seahawks with the way that Sam Darnold was turning the ball over. But I do want to give a shout out to that defense. They pressured him. They made him make those mistakes. And Emmanuel Forbes, a guy that I thought was going to be one of the bigger draft busts in recent memory, just had a massive game against them. Forbes shut down JSN. Nobody shut down JSN. He held him to like 25 yards on 3 targets, and he covered him the most out of everybody. That is just super impressive with the kind of season that JSN has been having. Shout out Forbes, shout out the Rams defense, shout out the Rams in general. They're still the kings of the NFL and on top of my power rankings.
Absolutely. The Rams deserve all the flowers with how they played. I mean, that offense is unstoppable. And then that defense is probably the most underrated defense in football right now. In all levels of the game, the Rams are the best in every level. Matthew Stafford is the best quarterback in the league, or at least deserves MVP honors, is the number 1 in the MVP race. Puka Nacua is the best wide receiver in the league. Devontae Adams is the best number 2 in the league, wide receiver number 2. And then, like I said, that defense is probably a top 7 unit right now at the lowest. Overall, it's just the Rams are the best team. And then the Eagles, Lions, Patriots, no problem at all. The only thing I will say, the Lions need to continue to play consistently. Right now, they're very wishy-washy. I think they're good, but they're not great. I really think they need to continue to play at a great. They need to continue to play at a high level, especially with these divisional games coming up here. So we'll see how it all pans out. But the Lions, I like the top four. I like this list, Jeremy. It's a good list. Outside of the Broncos missing the top 10, but outside of that, I have no problems.
We take that. We take that. Mehrob, do you have a top 5 for us?
I would say it's the same top. I honestly would say it's the same top five that's here right now. Rams, Eagles, Lions, Patriots, Colts are the top five teams in the NFL, hands down, with the way that they've been playing. I think the Ravens can enter that conversation at some point. I think the Seahawks could have if they won that game this week as well. But it's going to be about if they can actually do it. If they can play at a high level, if they can be consistent. If they can do that, they'll get there. If not, though, I don't know. I don't know. Right now, though, this top five list is the right top five, I'd say.
We love to hear that. I do want to give a quick shout out to the Dolphins, who've won 3 out of 4 games. The Dolphins, could they make a playoff push? Could they make a playoff push?
Could they make a playoff push?
They're only
That's a great.
they're only 2 games out right now, and that schedule isn't tough down the stretch. They're, like I said, they just beat the Bills. They beat them pretty handily. They have a bye week right now. They come back after that bye week with the Saints, the Jets, the Steelers potentially without Aaron Rodgers, the Bengals potentially without Joe Burrow, and then the Bucs and Patriots week 18 after they more or less have probably clinched that division. That's like 4 wins right there. That's 9 wins. They could maybe get to 10, and that could be the magic number. I'm just saying, I don't think it's going to happen, but keep your eyes out. That's a real life scenario that very much is in play right now.
I think the AFC is wide open, and especially the way the Dolphins dismantled the Bills. If they can keep that up, they can do it. They get the Saints, the Jets coming up in their next 2 games. If they can win that, I think they move up to what, 6-7? Oh,
Yep.
6-7.
Yeah.
And then we get the Steelers. They get the Steelers, Bengals, Buccaneers, and Patriots. That's when it's going to matter. When that game against this, when they have to travel up to Pittsburgh, up to Pittsburgh, that's when it's going to depend on. That's when it's going to matter. Is this team really for real? That's what it's going to matter. So we'll see. Until then, I think they can get there, but they're going to need to continue to prove it at a high level.
We will find out. That's a conversation for another week. I had that in my brain for the last 2 days, and I wanted to get it out somewhere just in case it happens. But let's move on to some NBA. The NBA has been wild all season long. The Thunder still only 1 loss to the Trailblazers. They could still go 81-1, which would be insane. But the big story from last night, LeBron James. LeBron makes his debut against the Utah Jazz, and it was a little underwhelming, but year 23 LeBron, coming back from sciatica, not an easy thing to come back from, drops 11 points, keeps his streak of 10 plus points in a game alive, the longest consecutive streak in NBA history, dating all the way back to his rookie season, which, GOAT. He is just really good at basketball. Luka goes for 37 in that one, but LeBron makes his return, and we talked a little bit about this over text yesterday. We kind of saw it where LeBron took that step back. Like you were saying, you have Reeves and Luka, who are both averaging like 30 points a game right now. The offensive flow is going to just get disrupted a little bit because you have LeBron James, who demands the ball in at least a couple possessions each quarter, right? This is going to change the dynamics of it. How much is that going to change the Lakers going forward? And is it going to be a problem, or is it going to help them?
I think it's going to help them with their size, with their physicality. I think they're going to be a physical team. They're going to work. Their offense is going to be a work in progress throughout the rest of the year. But in terms of defensively, in terms of rebounding, I think this only helps the Lakers because the Lakers are, at the end of the day, they are lacking size. Outside of DeAndre Ayton, I think the next tallest guy is Max Kleber at like 6'8". At the end of the day, I just think they needed that size to get back. They just needed another guy down low in the post to grab rebounds, to grab offensive boards, to get to the free throw line. And that's the thing I want to point out. Because in this game, the Lakers shot 40 free throws. 40. 4-0.
It's a lot of free throws.
That is a lot of free throws. I think their size overwhelmed the Jazz overall. I mean, Larry Markkinen is not the biggest dude. He's tall, but tall does not beat big,
Right.
unfortunately. Big
And-
always beats. And Yusuf Nurkic, kind of, the Lakers just pretty much bullied the Jazz last night, quite frankly. I mean, you had DeAndre Ayton with 14 rebounds. You had Luka Doncic, 10 assists. LeBron, 12 assists. Across the board, I mean, this was just a dominating, bullying game from the Lakers.
Yeah, no,
Classic Lakers.
that's the good injury news. And I think that game would have been a little bit more interesting if they had a Walker Kessler down low, but he's obviously missing a little bit of time. Real good shot blocker down there. A guy that the Lakers reportedly were interested in, did not get to play against them. LeBron makes his return, but I guess a few souls had to be sacrificed for his sciatica to go away, because now Victor Wembanyama is dealing with a calf strain. And Giannis is also dealing with an injury. Both of those guys going to miss some time, but I want to focus on Victor Wembanyama a little bit because that calf strain is something to take very seriously. We've now seen in very recent NBA history both Jason Tatum and Tyrese Halliburton try and play through calf strains, tear an Achilles, excuse me. That is a real concern for a guy as big as Victor Wembanyama. How seriously are the Spurs treating this, you think? And how long is it going to hold him out? And if it holds him out, I'm throwing a lot of questions at you, but if it holds him out for an extended period of time, how is this going to affect the Spurs season?
I think this affects the Spurs season big time. I mean, Victor Wembanyama is box office for this team. He's an energizer bunny. The way he can take over the games, the way he can just be a force down low as a shot blocker, as a rebounder, as a shooter, as a ball handler sometimes. The offense, I wouldn't say necessarily runs through him, but he is a big component of that offense. Another thing that is flying way under the radar that you reminded me of actually when you were talking about the Spurs. There's another injury on that team that is very, 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 very noteworthy. Stephen Castle is also going to miss time here. He's out for 2 weeks with a hamstring injury. It's either hamstring or a hip injury. I don't remember. But he is also going to miss time. Who is going to be the point guard for this team over the next couple weeks? Without Wembanyama, without Castle, I mean, it's going to be on the shoulders of De'Aaron Fox and Devin Vassell to really carry this offense. I'm not saying that at the end of the day, it's 2 weeks in the regular season of the NBA. It's not like the NFL. Like every game is crucial. Missing games happens, injuries happens. It's a long season. But these are injuries that are nagging. They're especially with Wembanyama's calf injury, and you got to take them seriously. So I expect Wemby to miss. If they say 2 weeks, expect 4 weeks. If they say 4 weeks, expect 6 to 8. This is not an injury that they're going to take lightly, especially with what we've seen from Kevin Durant, Jason Tatum, like you said, Tyrese Halliburton. The last thing you want for a talent like Victor Wembanyama to get a season-ending injury, to get a career-changing injury like an Achilles tear. So just got to hope for the best here for the Spurs. And honestly, give him as much time as he can to rest. Honestly, hold him out for the rest of the year and wait till January to possibly bring him back.
Yeah, that would be a really interesting move. And I don't know if the Spurs have the luxury of that. You brought up the guards. Dylan Harper, also a guy that you might look at, also dealing with a calf injury, right? Stephon Castle dealing with that hip flexor strain, and even Jordan McLaughlin, day-to-day with a hamstring injury, was ruled out of last night's game against the Grizzlies. This is a little concerning. Can the Spurs survive? I don't know, but outside of the Spurs team as a whole, Victor Wembanyama, like you said, is going to miss a lot of time. He's going to miss a good amount of time. He's expected to miss multiple weeks per Shams Charania. This, for him personally, is going to affect his legacy, right? The 65 game minimum rule is something that's going to affect Victor Wembanyama and a lot of players that are dealing with injuries right now. Is he going to try and push back to get back quicker, to get a depoy, to get all-star consideration, all NBA consideration, all this stuff that he wouldn't otherwise be able to get when if he misses an extended period of time? Do you expect him to try and hit that 65 game mark, or is this just something he's going to throw out and say, I'll get it later?
I think this is something that he's going to hang with him he's going to be as a guy that's considered an injury prone kind of guy. So I absolutely understand that this is an area of concern. I mean, in terms of his legacy as a player, he might go down in his early years as a injury prone kind of guy. But in terms of like an MVP conversation, in terms of championships, I don't think it affects that as much. We're just gonna have to wait and see. He's a young player, so talking legacy right now is also really tough.
Right.
This is a guy that's barely 20 years of age. So we kind of just we got to give guys some space to grow, some time to develop as players. Injuries happen. Calf strain is something that's noteworthy and worrying, as well as some of those blood clots from last year. But the blood clots were an abnormal injury. That's just not something that happens all the time. Calf strain is a little bit happens all the time, but you got to make sure you handle it correctly so it doesn't turn into an Achilles injury.
Yeah. He's not the only big to go out recently. As of yesterday, Giannis updated on his injury, a low-grade left groin strain, expected to miss 1 to 2 weeks. The Bucks' whole team is obviously Giannis. How are they going to be able to survive without him? Obviously, it's just for a 1 to 2 week stretch, and in a surprisingly strong Eastern Conference, how far is that going to have them fall?
I think right now they're sitting in the 11th spot. I mean, like we've said, this is early on in the season, and there's a lot of teams here that's 8-5, 8-7, 7-6, 8-6, 9-6. It's a very close conference here. But you just gotta hope for the best. They do have to go up against the Knicks coming up. They have a little bit of a tough schedule. The Sixers, the Pistons, Blazers, Heat, Knicks, all in the next week stretch before Thanksgiving. But if you can come back come early December, I think you can come back into a little bit of a cushion stretch and kind of take that as far as it'll take him. You know? So we're just gonna have to wait and see how it all plays out. As long as he comes back early in December, I think the Bucks will be okay.
Yeah. Again, this is just
And
a
it'll give
weird. It's just a weird East right now. Like you were saying, it's kind of jumbled up down there. The Bucks at 11th in the conference, but they just don't have the tiebreakers. There's a lot of teams that are above 500, which is kind of the way I expected the West to be. But they've just flip-flopped for some reason. I guess shout out the East for being good at basketball this year, and the West for being very, very top-heavy, kind of like we expected. That's the big injury update in the NBA. But I know you wanted to talk a little bit about some other topics in basketball, Mehrob. Go ahead and take us into that.
Basketball?
Isn't
I
it?
mean, we're gonna.
I forgot your text. We were talking UFC. That's what it was. Yeah.
I was gonna say
Yep.
not
UFC.
basketball.
That's
We're
what we're
gonna jump
going.
right into UFC here.
I
Let's
just
jump right into it.
I vaguely remembered a text from you saying you wanted to talk something about the NBA, but that's way off. The UFC had a massive matchup, a massive fight night overall this weekend. It ended in chaos with a brawl in Madison Square Garden. That was an insane card. The final main matchups, the headliners didn't go as great for the viewing public as some of the other ones did. A 16-second fight is insane. But still, it was a very good fight. Like you could see the strategy behind it when, as far as Makhachev just kept taking down his opponent. He's now the 11th in UFC history double champ. He has 2 championships. He's gonna be hunted. He's gonna be headhunted now. Talk to me a little bit about that card and what stood out to you.
Let's just take it away, Jeremy. This was arguably UFC. What was it? 322 or 323? I can't remember the
322.
number. 322. I mean, this is arguably the card of the year. Outside of that card early on in June with Ilia Topuria and Charles Oliveira, this is the best. This is the best card that we've seen all year round, from top to bottom, from prelims all the way throughout. The co-main event, Valentina Shevchenko and Zhang Weili. A lot of people will say it was a little bit of a dud fight just because Shevchenko dominated. But at the end of the day, absolutely dominated. But Shevchenko is arguably now the GOAT in the women's division. I mean, she's an absolute monster. The way her ground game is phenomenal. Her striking is phenomenal. The way that she just dominates every single fight. Now, I do think that this fight will happen again, but regardless, I think Shevchenko right now is arguably, or undisputedly, I should say, the GOAT of the women's division all time when it comes to UFC women's division. All divisions, not just hers.
Really?
I think so. I think undisputedly at this point, she is an absolute monster. But going into the main event, I mean, there's no better story than Islam Makhachev right now. The entire Dagestani family, the way that Khabib walked into the big leagues from Russia, the way that his father said that Khabib was going to start it out and then Islam was going to take over right after. I mean, this is just domination by the Dagestanis. Now Islam is sitting there as the double champ after a dominating win against Jack Della Maddalena at a new weight class. There's nothing really else to say outside of he's the best. He's the pound for pound GOAT right now in the UFC. Maybe not the greatest of all time, but he's absolutely the pound for pound number one. Now, I won't talk about what happened after the fight with the brawl, just because it doesn't really mean a whole lot. Dylan Dennis got into it with Islam's folks, I should say, the Muslim community that was all there. He had his entire family, his friends, everybody from Russia came pouring in the first 5 rows, and Dylan Dennis is just sitting there causing mayhem. That's what happened there. That's all that needs to be said. And Dylan Dennis is now banned from all UFC events.
For life.
Yep. For life. But when we're talking about what's next for Islam, who can take down Islam Makhachev, there's only one guy that's out there that can do it. And this is a fight that's been brewing for a little while, ever since International Fight Week in May, when Ilia Topuria beat Charles Oliveira. Even before that, Topuria was running his mouth about Islam Makhachev, how he could beat Makhachev, how he would submit Makhachev with his own choke. He said, I'll submit him close to Khabib. If you guys know UFC, you'll know what I'm talking about. I'll submit him close to Khabib. I'll submit him with the Darce choke. I'll do this, that. I'll dominate him. Islam said, no. You gotta win a championship. You gotta become a double champ. You have to be worth my time. Islam goes into a press conference this past weekend and blatantly says, the second he gets asked about Ilia Topuria in a possible super fight, he says, bring it on. He's worth my time. This is the fight I want. And this is the fight where we might actually see. Is it going to be next? I'm not 100% sure about that, because I think Ilya is going to fight one more time, and then we'll see what the timeline ends up. But this is a fight that could happen in June, July, August. I expect to see it sometime next summer, a super fight between these two. It says Islam has said that he'll go back down to 155 to challenge Topuria. We'll see how that weight cut goes, especially a guy that had just moved up and put on 15 pounds to get up to 170, now wants to go back down. It's easier to put on weight than cut it. That's the biggest thing that's been always the thing with mixed martial arts. So we'll see how it all plays out. But this is the next super fight. This is probably the biggest. This is probably going to end up being one of the biggest fights in UFC history if it all pans out.
Has there ever been a triple champ in UFC history? Ever?
No.
Never.
No. It has never happened.
All
but
right.
Topuria has said, I don't mind going up to 170. Islam said, I don't mind going down to 155. The nitty-gritties of it, we'll see how that all gets wrinkled out. But this is a fight that's really going to happen. And this is something that it's pushing the verge. It is pushing the verge of a Conor McGregor-Khabib level fight. And if you guys know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Real quick shout out, welterweight bout. Carlos Prates first time Edwards ever knocked out in his 15-year career in the second round. Shout out to him. Really great fights all around. Like I said, the undercard for this one were just amazing fights in general.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It was a phenomenal fight. And Carlos Prates with a picture perfect knockout elbow on that one against Leon Edwards. We'll see how that all plays. I think Carlos Prates is a guy that's going to be on the up and comings. We'll see if he's going to enter the top 5 for sure after this win. But how is he going to pan out against the Ian Machado Garys, the Shavkat Rakhmanovs, all of the top, the creme de la cremes of the welterweight division? That's what it's going to be all about. And he's going to be gearing up for a top 5 fight coming up soon.
Yeah, there's lots of big stuff coming up in the UFC. Real quick, before we call it a day here on the Triple Threat Show, James Franklin doing his introductory press conference right now as the new head coach of the Virginia Tech Hokies. I want to talk a little bit about it, and we'll talk more about it when we hear everything from the press conference on Friday, but this coaching cycle is going to be insane. It's kicked off already. Virginia Tech got their guy, a great recruiter, especially in the DMV area, a guy who did amazing things as a program builder for Penn State, bringing them out of the depths of the Jerry Sandusky era when that ended all in scandal over there. He's a really impressive coach. That's a great hire for them. I don't think Virginia Tech could do any better, and I think this is a home run hire for them. The next name to watch is going to be Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin for Ole Miss right now, currently inside track to be a potential top 5 team in the entire country. Definitely going to make the playoffs as long as they win out. But he seems like he's got one foot out the door right now. Ole Miss, and a lot of credible sources have said that Ole Miss gave him an ultimatum to either stay with the team or you're not coaching the playoffs. He said he never got an ultimatum on the Pat McAfee show the other day. I trust everyone but him because that's just how coaching goes, right? He's going to take either the LSU or the Florida job in Gainesville or down in Baton Rouge. That's going to be the next name to watch, but the coaching cycle has just gotten started. The college football season winding down, the college football playoffs winding up. A lot to pay attention to in the world of sports, and we'll go over it on Friday. Game picks for the NFL. We'll talk a little college football game picks as well, as again, the playoffs right around the corner. We will keep an eye on basketball. Mehrob, top 10 NBA power rankings for him every single Friday, the inaugural one on Friday. We will see you then. Thank you so much for tuning in. We have been your hosts, Jeremy Lapidus and Mehrob Fatemi. We'll be back Friday morning. Tune in. We'll see